Hey, good morning, everybody. I am walking out to see my sheep for the first time since Saturday. We had quite the weekend around here. So we had shearing on Saturday, and only 5. Yeah, I know. I didn't bring cookies either. Only 5 of them were sheared this time. Our vet decided, or helped us decide, that Cupcake, oh gosh, that's not who I want to talk about right now. Sorry, that Rohan and Garnet should probably just not be sheared anymore in the fall. Rohan, her wool looks great, but I think I might have mentioned it previously. When she grew back her wool after April shearing, and that's her strutting up here. Yes, that's you, gorgeous. It's almost like it's all fell, which is the inner coat of an Icelandic coat, and there's no tog, which is the outer coat. I shouldn't say there's no tog at all, but it's radically different than it's ever been. And you got hay on your noggin. You do. You got lots of hay on that noggin. I do, don't I? Hey, little lobelia baby. So that was fine, and shearing, and Garnet looks so handsome. And just before I go on, I was going to say his looks nice and thick, and it is very thick, but it's not very long. It looks longer, when you're just standing here looking at him, than it is actually. So, no, Snickers, no, you're not Steve McQueen in The Great Escape. No, you're not. Stop it. Just decided to be safer for both of them, to not have to work so hard this winter to stay warm. The other ones that were sheared are Arwen, who is my little Dalmatian sheep right there. And you can see Ruthie up there by herself by the fence. And Radagast here. And Janie is up there. Oh, and there's Rosie, little Rosie Cotton, little black horned sheep up there. It's hard to see her because she's standing in front of the barn. But those 5 got sheared, and they all look great. And our vet assured me that everybody looks nice and chunky going into winter. She said nobody looks like they've missed any meals at all. So that was really great news. The bad thing that happened, well, 2 bad things happened on shearing day. The first is that as we were trying to get all of the sheep into the barn, we had some holdouts like we always do. One of them was Miss Belladonna right there, that little black Welsh mountain girl. Yeah, she went into the barn, into the breezeway, and then she immediately turned around to run out. And I reached out with my right hand to grab her fleece and hold her, and I felt and heard something tear and pop in my arm. So up there in the crook of your elbow, on the inside part of your elbow, apparently I tore part of the muscle, a tendon, a ligament. I don't know, because I was never good at science, and I was a little bit out of it when the ER doctor was explaining to me what happened. I also think the one thing I do remember about what he told me, thanks, Ruby, that's pretty. I love it when they pee on camera for all of you. The one thing I do remember him telling me was that they did an x-ray, and then they tried to do an ultrasound, but I was in so much pain they couldn't push the wand very hard down on my arm to really get a look at it. So the good news is that I did not completely separate the muscle from everything it's connected to in there. And so the first thing he looked for was a giant golf ball up at the top of my arm to see if it was there. Because if that was the case, then they would have had to do surgery to get that muscle back in place. So he was very relieved. And honest to God, I don't know. I think I would have passed out if that had happened, because it hurt so bad when it tore. I can't imagine what the entire muscle just rolling up in your arm. I can't even fathom that kind of pain. So thank goodness for small favors, right? Anyway, I am in a sling for the next, well, now it's coming on about a week and a half. And then I go see my main doctor, and we'll figure out if it's healing enough that I could start physical therapy, or if I need to keep it immobilized even longer. I think it's healing up. I do feel like I have more strength in my arm. I feel like I've got more mobility, and it doesn't hurt as bad when I, move it, but it feels odd. I was explaining this to my brother that on Saturday when it happened, if that muscle, that bicep muscle, engaged at all for any reason, it was just this screaming pain in my arm and about made me sick. But now if I do something, I turn a corner and my arm kind of moves accidentally and that bicep engages, it doesn't hurt. It feels weird though. It feels like a weird little click in there. So I'm still being very careful. I'm keeping it in the sling even when I'm asleep at night, which means I'm not sleeping real well. But the point is, I'm doing what the doctor told me to do, and we'll continue to do that. And hopefully we'll have good news on November 1st when I go to the doctor. The other thing that happened on Saturday, I can't believe this. This has just been awful. The other thing that happened on Saturday is when Cupcake was being sheared, the shearer noticed a huge mass down by her udder. And Cupcake was never bred. She's never had milk. And one of the teats of her udder was just massively swollen. So after she wasn't being sheared like... she was being crutched. So all of my girls, and the guys actually that aren't sheared, they get the private part area cleaned up and get that all sheared off so that over the winter they don't like soak in pee. Like it doesn't just absorb all the pee and doesn't cause vaginal infections in the girls, and it can cause the boys to have problems too. So that's what was going on with Cupcake. And so when she was done being crutched, they took her into the side room where the vet students were working. And Dr. Bradley, bless her heart, she felt like it was very high odds that it was cancerous, that it was a cancerous mass. There was some discussion as to whether it might be mastitis, because apparently sheeps, oh my gosh. Apparently sheep who aren't in milk can still get mastitis. Flies can get up in the teats, like in the summertime, and it can cause infections. But just all of the corroborating evidence to go with that, it didn't make sense. It didn't look like mastitis. It's like it could have been a weird form, but it didn't look like it. Okay, so yesterday, we took Cupcake over to Washington State University's veterinary teaching hospital, and they did an exam and they did an ultrasound. And the doctor there, the clinician who's in charge of the unit right now, he said, I cannot definitively say that it is cancer, but it could be mastitis, but he said mastitis is so rare in sheep that have not been bred. He said, I can't say that it's impossible, for it to be mastitis, but it would be very strange. And so we were there for a long time. We were there for a couple hours, giving all the vet students a chance to do ultrasounds and feel it and see what was going on. And it's hard to remember the chain of events. What it boiled down to is that the only way to know for sure if it was cancer would have been to do a biopsy. And a biopsy is a surgical procedure where they go in and they make a little incision, and they have to use a tool that, for lack of a better word, it's like a hole punch. The doctor was explaining it to me, and I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? And he goes, it's kind of like a hole punch if you picture it like that. I'm like, all right. So he said they do this little punch thing and they get the tissue out and then they have to test it. So I'm like, I'm not going to put her through a surgery. She was 8 years old, and that's not elderly for sheep, but she was a big sheep. So think of it more like a 10-year-old sheep. Would put her in like her 70s. 10 years and people, no, 10 years, yeah, because sorry, I'm really not with it lately. She was 8, but because she was such a big sheep, think of her more as like being 10, and you take that times 7, because they age roughly like dogs, especially like big dogs. So she was like in her 70s, not a young sheep anymore. And finally I asked, is she in pain? And he said, yes, she's very uncomfortable. Every time we touch her, every time she's reacting. And so I just made the decision that we had to let her go. I've spoken to 3 vets now about it, just sharing what I experienced, and all 3 of them have said I made the right call. If it had turned out to be cancer, they could have done a surgery to remove the mass, maybe. But here's the other reason I didn't want them to do the biopsy or put her through surgery. Because of where the mass is it was down there by the udder. It was even hard to tell where the udder started and where the tumor mass thing began. And it was really hard to see. But that whole area down there has so much vasculature that the doctor at WSU said I would be afraid of her hemorrhaging out while we were just even trying to take the sample for the biopsy. So, made the decision to let our Cupcake go. And it's always hard. It is always hard to make that decision. But I was telling a friend of mine about that's the commitment I made. They have to have an advocate. Because they can't speak for themselves. And I look around at all of these little faces, and I know that I'm going to have to make that same decision at some point for all of them. And it does not get any easier. I've always felt like every time I have to put an animal down, I lose a little piece of me. I lose a little piece of my heart. But I read something recently, and I apologize, I'm just going to have to cry through this. That yes, every time you lose an animal, you lose a piece of your heart. But every time you get an animal and you save an animal and you care for it, it doesn't put the same piece back, but it sort of puts a patch in there. So your heart doesn't ever become smaller. Not talking physically, I'm talking metaphorically. Your heart doesn't become smaller. Your ability to give and love and care does not become smaller. Because every time you do something for one of these animals, you're healing yourself. So, anyway, that's what I have to hold on to. And I can only use one hand. And this whole time I've been holding my phone while this little sweet nose is down here saying, please pet me, mommy. Please pet me. So I'm going to try to get, there's my fingers there, see? Yes, I love you so much, Miss Dear. Little sweet girl. Yes, let's go around here so they can see your pretty eyes. You got very pretty eyes. Yes, you do. Oh, and Lobelia's like, hey, are we doing pets? Even better, are we doing cookies? I would like to do cookies, Mom. So, I love my sheep. Love Cupcake to pieces. Miss her so much. But now I know that she is not hurting anymore. And that's the most important thing. So if you all that I'm looking at here could just live for another 1,000 years, that'd be great. I know you can't, but let's work really hard on staying healthy, Kay? And give us more cookies and we'll stay plenty healthy for you, Mommy. Anyway, sorry about the tears. I know I don't have to apologize, but it's hard to be that vulnerable and then not apologize for it, which is really kind of silly, don't you think? So anyway, thank you for listening. Things will get better around here, of course. If you have the means and the desire to support our little tiny farming venture here, please check out our store. Right now we don't have a lot, but we have Roving from Arwen, who is my little Dalmatian sheep right here. And the picture I took of it that's online, I mean, I couldn't get a great picture of it, but hopefully what you can see is that it is so soft. And the tog is there, the outer coat with the coarser fibers are in it, but it is ridiculously soft Roving. And then I just have 2 ounces left of Mystery You, which was a fleece that I bought from the lady who got me started with sheep, and she couldn't remember. There was no tag in her bag, so she didn't know which sheep it came from. But it is crazy soft too. I know that Icelandic gets the reputation for being coarse and gritty and, uncomfortable, not skin to soft, or not next to skin soft. And I'm not saying that Arwen and the Mystery You would be next to skin soft, because everybody has different feelings about that. Different, what is comfortable for one person might not be comfortable for another. But I am saying that they are 2 of the softest Icelandic Rovings I've ever felt. In addition to that, I have yarn that is on sale. And this was mill-spun yarn from a friend had given me a couple of fleeces. And so they're not from my sheep. But I went ahead and processed them together. And one was definitely a Romney, and I can't remember now. I don't think I knew what the other one was. But it's this glorious kind of it's brown, but it's like a golden brown. And it's just gorgeous. It's a worsted weight. And like I said, I marked it down, so it is on sale. And then we also have opportunities just to buy cookies and hay for the sheep. So if any of that appeals to you, that is great. We appreciate all the support. I heard from the mill that has my big order right now, and that should be coming back end of December, beginning of January. And that is going to have a lot of amazing stuff, Roving and yarn both. So if you'd like to check it out now, it's our website is blainefleeceandfiber.com. You're so handsome there, Garnet. Yes, nice lump in there, sweetie. When they lay down, we call it lumping. That's just what my family calls it. That's not the official term. But if you go to our website and then look up at the top and you can see all the little options to press, there is one that says store, and you can just purchase everything through the store. Thank you for listening to this. I always feel like maybe I shouldn't share when a sheep dies, but that's just foolish. Anybody who's following... Sorry, my thumb was right in the way. Anybody who's following a sheep farm knows that it's not all idyllic, wonderful, great times, that there are hard times along with the good times. So I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you following. And I'm going to come over here and look at these 2 beauties. Yes, you are so pretty, dear and Dee Dee. Yes, you 2 are just lovely. Yes, Dee Dee, you got your mama's prettiness, didn't you? Yes, you did, sweetheart. Hi. I can't see. There's my finger. There we go. I will rub her little nose. He's like, okay, I'll take it. All right, I'm going to end here. Thanks for watching.